Okay, well, good morning. Are you ready? And I ask this question because the topic of my conversation today is on artificial intelligence, and it is truly mind-blowing. So I want to make sure everybody is ready into a technology that is really transforming, probably the most transformative technology of our time today. Some people would say, such as Sundar Pichai, CEO of Alphabet, that artificial intelligence, or AI, is so profound, he likens it to fire and electricity, for example, that it truly has capability beyond anything that we've ever seen before. Just last week, when the company with the largest financial valuation in the world, NVIDIA, investing $100 billion into OpenAI, the CEO, Sam Altman from OpenAI, was explaining how AI is already outperforming the human intellect in several competitions. In fact, what struck me is the comment of there's this mismatch between what most people think about where AI is today and what it's capable of doing. And that's pretty extraordinary. Just last week, there was a chartered financial analyst exam that is extremely difficult to pass. To pass the CFA exam, it takes thousands of professional years of experience. There's several different phases. A couple years ago, AI did not pass stage 3, the essay. They announced last week that, in fact, not only passed all phases of the test this year, but it did so in a matter of minutes. And that's pretty extraordinary what's taking place in these types of competitions and such. And just Friday, it's moving very fast. Walmart CEO Doug McMillon says, hey, AI is going to touch every single job there is. It's going to have an impact. Maybe some jobs are deleted, maybe they're transformed, but at some point, humans and workers are going to be interacting with AI in our professional and certainly in our professional lives. Mind-blowing, truly, and we're just getting started. What I want to convey to you today, and really three major topics, and AI is not new. It's just it rapidly advancing at a pace that really is extraordinary. And it's almost like that hockey stick curve on a graph in terms of how fast it's moving, and the fact that you can find news on AI that's breaking ground every single day in terms of its rapid advancements. But it's not new, and it's something that we can learn from and continue to work with. And that AI's impact in the supply chain is an astonishing disruptor. And all of us who work here at Pack Expo, work in packaging, work in the supply chain, the movement of goods, the packaging of goods in commerce. And AI is going to be not only disrupting in every facet of our business, our operations, our products, but it's going to be a competitive necessity that if you're not working with AI to drive your business forward, that you're going to fall behind. And I think sooner rather than later. The more I study, the more I read, the more astonishing it gets. It's like, wow, okay, this is something we need to be involved in. But maybe the biggest takeaway for today, for my purposes, is to talk about how reusable transport packaging, the pallets, the bulk bins, containers, trays, have a significant role to play as an opportunity to fuel these AI models for utilization in the supply chain. That in many ways, we can look at reusable transport packaging as a solution to innovate, to fuel these AI models for them to be able to perform the tasks at hand. Well, what is AI in general? Artificial intelligence really refers to the systems that process data to perform tasks. And there's varying levels or degrees of autonomy and adaptability in these models. What AI generally does is provides tools for decision-making that moves from, say, human intuition and experience into data-driven models for that decision-making. The definitions that I picked, and there's many out there, doesn't take long to search for them, But the ones I like here emphasize the data inputs. And we'll talk more about that later and the importance of data as the instruments or the knowledge that ultimately is put into that AI system. And it's turning that data into that knowledge and knowledge into action. But I mentioned it's not new. In fact, it was first asked 75 years ago, is can machines think? We've been really rapidly advancing in terms of where we are today. In fact, it was 1957 when John McCarthy coined the phrase artificial intelligence at a seminar in Dartmouth. So artificial intelligence by name and referring to machines learning, thinking, processing, and doing has been around for quite some time. And what we've seen over the years is a rapid development over time, more so significantly and exponentially, into things like machine learning. And remember in 1997, where the IBM's Deep Blue computer beat the world chess champion, Garry Kasparov, and did it so again, learning about tests and actually tackling the human knowledge as far as competitively performing those tasks. And it's moved into deep learning, which uses large language models and algorithms to take that data and process it and reason with it and to perform outputs in this deep learning large language models that are so popular, that are being developed and trained every day. And more recently, we've become aware of generative AI or Gen AI. And a lot of us think of this as ChatGPT, right? Gen AI basically utilizes the database, the information that's available, and generates outcomes based on prompts or based on commands, right? Here's our meeting, summarize it. What are the bullet points? And using the intellect of the computer to say, these were emphasized during conversation. Or create me a picture of a dancing palette, which I did, by the way. It's very interesting if you take a look and do that yourself. But it's generating new content based on the prompts and the commands and then leveraging the AI database that's produced. Well, one of the things that's very quickly advancing is what's called agentic AI. And agentic AI basically refers to utilizing artificial intelligence, but doing so independently, autonomously. And so where generative AI requires prompts and commands to receive a particular output, agentic AI basically uses sophisticated reasoning and inference and iterative planning to actually take action, to work with tools, other tools, software, to take the recommendations and implement it throughout an organization, throughout workflows. And so the difference between agentic AI and, say, generative AI is agentic AI works in the real world. It is performing tasks in everyday operations rather than as a result of a prompt or a command that we're experiencing with most of us as consumers would say a chat GPT. Well, very rudimentary. How does agentic AI work? Well, you have AI agents that's basically collecting the data, collecting the information. And then it fuels into the large language model that orchestrates what to do with that information, provides the reasoning, the aptitude of working with that data to be able to determine where it should go, such as acting with other, say, software or tools within the organization. But one of the most important steps is the last one, is the learning. What they call this flywheel of basically testing out, learning, and improving in a continuous improvement model. And so the way this works is by taking and starting from the original data, the AI agents, processing it in a large language model, and then spelling it out into your workflows, into the work environment, and then learning from it, and then continuously improving. And what we're seeing, of course, over the last couple of years is an accelerated adoption of AI. In fact, more than 3/4 of companies in a survey have said, yeah, we're looking at AI. We're adopting AI in our business functions, at least one business function. And we've seen them looking at how Gen AI also is moving into businesses at a very rapid pace. And soon, if we had a 2025 line from this report, you would probably see the emergence of agentic AI moving very fast. I think it's important to point out, though, while adoption is high and accelerating quickly, MIT did a report about 2 months ago that talked about what's called a gen divide, as they put it, where adoption is high, but disruption is low. That right now businesses aren't really getting the ROI on the adoption of AI. Variety of different factors. It's not just technology and infrastructure. It's about human adoption, working with it. There's a lot of different areas though, but while adoption is high, we've really yet to experience that large scale of impact, but it's coming. And we know that the power is going to continue to incentivize companies to continue to invest and ultimately figure it out and start the deployments that's going to be very effective for your organization. In fact, DHL Supply Chain in their trend said, what do you expect in terms of adoption of technology over the next 5 years? And AI by far is one. So we know companies that are in logistics and in operations and warehousing are definitely looking at AI as the thing to adopt, the thing to explore, the thing to invest in their businesses. But the money is following as well, right? Follow the money. So when you look at the investments in AI and just in artificial intelligence, 124 billion, and now all of a sudden you're starting to see investments in that specific autonomy and adaptability, agentic AI for disruption of activities within your operations. I wanted to put this slide in here, a very new study. It's amazing that in preparing for this slide deck, it's like every day there was something new that came out I had to account for. But this is a real interesting study that was just issued to talk about the potential impact that AI has in global trade, which again, supply chain. And I thought it was fascinating that the technology could actually uplift trade. It could allow for smaller companies with access into AI to improve their operations to compete. It could also, with developing nations, to be able to use AI to generate market interest and demand and pull through of your products into the market. What we have to work at as an industry, of course, is how does we look at equity and access, and that these tools can be able to be provided to nations that would need them to be able to compete and grow. But AI has the potential to increase the total addressable markets, let's say, of our business. Well, let me take a look at supply chains. What exactly can AI do? This is a sampling and an example that can be provided. And I picked 3 of how AI models that are working in demand forecasting, supply planning, but then also logistics optimization. And I provide some examples here that basically with demand forecasting is that you can have data fueling into your AI model that has history and transactions of sales, take into account for seasonality and potentially discounts that would be in place to drive demand. Market trends and social media. Picture an AI model basically covering all the news, all the social media posts, everything that's publicly available overnight, and be able to predict that there could be a supply chain demand in a particular region for some reason or for something happening. And then basically the agentic AI shifts your stock, shifts your inventory to be in place well ahead of that demand taking place and capturing sales growth and demand that's there that maybe you did not project or predict. That's the power of what these models can do and what AI in terms of demand planning. Very similar to supply planning is looking out at how natural resources and how materials are in supply for procurement to be able to funnel into your product development, your marketing. Looking at vendor characteristics that could be potential suppliers or sources to your materials. Looking at your own manufacturing capability, maintenance schedules, where you have to shut down for a little while factoring that in and having all of that rolled up into this intellect to be able to predict what that supply is so that you can meet what the demand may be and your cost of goods, your stock levels, equipment and labor. So all of this moves into your financial models and your performance, your P&Ls, minimizing your risks, right? Having more resilience in your business because you're able to meet those demands and adapt to disruptions, satisfy customers, and ultimately driving efficiencies in your business. We're doing this already. Many of you have heard about logistics companies, last mile delivery, factoring in traffic on the highway, maybe a weather issue, thunderstorms, and rerouting their drivers. All of this is taking place now. It's only going to get bigger and scaled and better. For example, it's about predictive analytics, right? Having the data and being able to predict and forecast how your business needs to address. And supply chain disruptions are not going to go away. We've got a number here in terms of what that financial impact is having on supply chain disruptions. It's a big number that's going to continue to increase. And we know just looking at one reason for a disruption could be physical risks, thunderstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever it may be. But that over 60%, over 2/3 of companies believe that climate change and other physical characteristics or risks are going to take place over the next 5 years. And is my company prepared and resilient enough? Well, AI can get you prepared and resilient enough when deployed effectively. So I wanted to turn to the last point about the data, because this is extremely important, is again to emphasize that AI models run on data, run on information. It's about collecting and processing data and then put into the model. So data is so critical to running AI and taking advantages of all the benefits it offers. But the importance of data is also critical. Accurate, trustworthy data. Because you all have heard about garbage in, garbage out. If you're not putting in accurate, trustworthy data, what you're going to get out or what you're telling the AI agent to learn is not going to be as effective. So we really need to focus on the quality of data that's available. And this is where our industry comes in reusable packaging, your pallets, bulk bins, containers, trays, of actually providing and transmitting data at the case level of your operations, whether it's your products going into your warehouse, going into your customer's warehouse, that these individual units, and by the way, over 80% of commercial goods move on a pallet in the United States. So the infrastructure is there to be able to capture it. So when you're basically leveraging the tools that are already available, they're durable, they're poised to be able to transmit data of location, condition, quality, temperature. All of this is accurate and trustworthy data that is already spilling into models for learning and for processing into what you can pull from in terms of extrapolating and changing your business to adapt to the opportunities at hand. I want to give you just two examples, two from our industry, is our friends at Real Time Intelligence working with Alpha Bakery. They were losing about 25% of these plastic bread trays. By equipping these trays with technology and running them up into having models, you have got full visibility of your bread tray inventory. And they can analyze what did we ship out and what did return to be able to identify areas where we're able to capture and prevent loss of these assets. But there's two areas that it's also really cool to see that they're doing. Not only can they keep track as far as returns, but they can examine by routes. Is there one particular route that is losing more containers than others? Well, if so, let's troubleshoot that. Let's discover there's something else going on there as an outlier that we can address. It also could do it by customer, right? Some customers are turning these much faster and more effectively than others. Well, let's work with our partners, our customers, and find out why they're not returning fast enough. Are they just holding them? How can we change their operating procedures to assist with this? So these are learnings of not just the inventory of your bread trays, but the overall business of your actual bread product that you're selling through. So these are the takeaways that you can immediately start that's taking place now that applying to your business, working with your customers, both suppliers and say retailers in this case, about optimizing your business, optimizing your operations. Another example from our friends at Innotech, who recently won our Excellence Award, was about putting in-mold RFID tags on plant trays, plastic plant trays. In Germany, about 90% of these are single-use, they're being thrown out. Now all of a sudden they're putting your tags, are generating data, and within one snapshot they can detect thousands of these containers into their model, into their AI model to look at the efficiency of their operations and ultimately how these products are driving value for your customers. The technology's there, this isn't new. But again, it's elements in which you're analyzing data to levels that we've never done before and pulling in other data to make predictive analysis of how we can adjust our business to be able to take advantage and drive savings and efficiencies throughout. The last example has to deal with the Food and Drug Administration's new food traceability rules or records. That's been in the works for a long time now. Just earlier this year, they actually postponed, or proposed to postpone, I don't think it's full official yet, for 30 months because people can't comply to them. And they identified in their own cost assessment is that the number one cost, about $8 billion over 20 years, is record keeping. And you can see the numbers here that records of receiving and shipping and all the things that need to be tracked has a significant compliance cost. Well, imagine having all of that automated. Imagine being able to trace back several different steps in the supply chain in a matter of seconds to be able to address a recall. This is what tech-enabled reusable packaging can offer, because all of this is being transmitted and can ultimately comply in a matter of seconds. And I don't know what the cost savings could be on that. I've not figured that out, but it's got to be tremendous. Well, why need 30 more months from today to implement something that really is already in place or should be? So it's an example of a regulatory requirement that ultimately having tech-enabled reusable packaging for shipments of fruits and vegetables, all rolling up real-time data, complete visibility of your supply chain, and to be able to recall in a matter of seconds to anybody who asks on where this was grown, where did it go, how fast did it move, how long it's been out there, you name it. Very exciting. Well, I wanted to conclude my talk in basically suggesting that this is truly a mind-blowing effort. In fact, when I look at the state of the industry, kicking off this learning center as part of the PAC Expo Las Vegas program, I can conclude the state of the industry is, if not will be, mind-blowing because of what this technology is that, as referenced earlier, that many of us, myself included, really don't have an idea how exciting or how potential or how powerful this is going to be for the industry, and this is going to be for packaging products. All around us are vendors of reusable packaging product and service innovations. I invite you to go check them out as part of the pavilion here. And for the next couple of days, we've got a lineup of presentations and panels that will get into more details about technology, that will talk about things about how these are deployed in the real world environment. So we invite you to take a look at some of these sessions and come back and start digging into these details about how tech-enabled reusable packaging really offers an opportunity that we've yet to see, and really that we've yet to understand on where this can go. And it's the most exciting element of our industry. There's a lot of trends taking place about, should I look at reusable packaging, sustainability, regulations. In my opinion, the transformative opportunity with artificial intelligence pulled from tech-enabled reusable packaging stands alone. And we're just getting started. And we're excited as an association to be able to talk about this with our members and ultimately help deploy and drive these changes to our business. We invite you to be a part of our organization as this journey. and join us as a nonprofit trade organization. We're about promotion, raising awareness, education, collaborating across industry, ultimately talking about these industry issues that are going to drive change throughout your business and also your personal lives as well. So thank you very much for your time here in this kickoff session. Very excited to work and meet many of you over the next couple days. And stay tuned for our next wonderful session from Camps Pilots to keep us going with our education program today. Thanks so much.